Hey guys, Buildzoid here, and today we're going to be taking a look at RAM timings, VRAM timings. So GPU memory, not CPU memory, which is why we have a 290X on screen right now. And basically, I really like overclocking GDDR5 AMD GPUs because they're basically the most tweakable GPUs ever, as far as I'm concerned. They tend to have decent overclocking headroom, or even a lot of overclocking headroom if we're talking about something like, say, the original HD7 950, which shipped at like 800 megahertz. That was the AMD spec, and if you overclock one of those, well, they can go over 1200 if you get a good one. So that's like a 50% overclock on air cooling. So yeah, potentially tons of overclocking headroom. They generally scale with core voltage. They're not really that hard to cool. Even the 290X really isn't like you don't get the kind of hotspot behavior that you get on a lot of modern GPUs. Even like, yeah, the 290X is power hungry, but compared to modern GPUs, really not that bad. Um, and then, of course, you can mod the BIOS on them, and you can mod the memory timings and just kind of everything. So, yeah, I really, really like these cards. I think in second place in terms of favorite GPUs to overclock would be like NVIDIA Kepler cards, because everything after Kepler doesn't scale with voltage. But Kepler cards you can't. Actually, I might put the. I might rank. Well, no, the RX 480 is a GDDR5 GPU, so that still counts into my original GDDR5 AMD GPUs are best. But anyway, so yeah, I'm a big fan of GDDR5 AMD GPUs, and I have a lot of R9 290Xs. And one of the like frustrations I have with my R9 290X collection is that ASUS cards seemingly always come with Elpida memory. Even though like this ASUS Matrix Platinum BIOS has both Elpida and Hynix support, um, like I have two broken DirectCU 2 cards. Both of them have Elpida memory. I have a working Matrix. It has Elpida memory. I have a working DirectCU 2 card. It has Elpida memory. I have a pair of VaporX 290Xs. Both of those are Hynix. And I have a pair of Lightnings. One of them is a light edition, so that one's like terrible. The core is terrible. Both of the Lightnings are Samsung memory. Both of the VaporXs are Hynix memory. I've mentioned that. I also have some R9 290s because it's like a 290X, just smaller. So like, what's not to like? And or actually, well, 290s have the issue of you can't really get them with properly good PCBs. Just because yeah, like the 290X got you have like the Matrix, the VaporX, and the Lightning, and then for the 290s, you don't basically. Like I know there's like a 290 VaporX, but that uses a completely different VRM with significantly worse power, like less phases, worse components. Like doesn't count. But anyway, so I have 290s, 290Xs, variety of different memory chips, which is the norm. There's no like that's pretty typical for GPUs to have, all three flavors of memory chips. Actually, with 290Xs, you can get two flavors of Hynix. Um, and I have like an R9 290 in Samsung, but I'm not sure if it's this Samsung because it's like a Tri-X Sapphire card and it's awful. Like it really doesn't clock very high. So anyway, yeah, you can get all these different memory chips, and so the thing is, like, the Asus cards always seem to have Elpida. Even like the Matrix seems to always have Elpida, and it just doesn't make any sense to me because the Elpida, like, like in my experience, it clocks like garbage. Now, so if you get lucky, it might do like 1600 ish. If you get unlucky, you'll get stuck at like 1350. I had a Gigabyte Windforce card way ages and ages ago that would like for full stability would max out at like 1350 on the memory, and for benchmarks it could just about run things at like 1450, which yeah, not great. Terrible actually. Like it really doesn't get worse than that. Though I also had an Elpida based Gigabyte card that went to like 1550. So the variance on these cards is kind of all over the place in my experience as well, with what kind of memory clocks you can run. As even if you have like several cards with like this exact same memory chips, like a lot of the time they'll clock quite differently. But yeah, it's just kind of weird to me that like MSI went out of their way to make sure that the Lightnings, as far as I know, always came with Samsung memory chips. And then Asus has the Matrix Platinum, which is like the competitor for the Lightning, and that comes with Elpida. Almost like, as far as I can tell, exclusively. Though this Tech Power Up BIOS, like this is from the Tech Power Up BIOS database, this has Hynix support. So I don't know. Maybe there's some matrices out there with Hynix memory. Maybe specific. Maybe Asus kept all of those. I don't know. Like, just I've never seen one in person. Like I don't have a single Asus R9 290 or 290X with Hynix memory, and I've never really seen one. So I don't know. Like the BIOS seems to support it, but do they actually exist? Who knows? Um, and anyway, so we're gonna take a look at the timings because the like maybe like one theory I've heard is that the Elpida memory is like better in terms of memory timings. So though I will say that at least like from like initial testing, I haven't really noticed like uh like a big performance difference between the cards at the same clocks. The cards that I have, like when they're out of the box. After messing with the timings and like after messing with the memory straps and that kind of thing. Well, I've never intentionally benched them all at the exact same like core clock, same memory clock, and then just whatever the best timing strap they can run is. Um, but yeah, so I'm just kind of interested, like which memory chips are actually the best for R9 290Xs, considering the variety of memory chips that you can get them on. So I have a timing decoder that I've made. If you're wondering why these boxes over here are like bigger than the other ones, I don't know. It didn't look like that in the UI editor, but here we are. So anyway, so that's a Hynix strap off of a R9 290X Matrix. And then here we have an Elpida strap. And so at a glance, like the TRCDW is tighter on the Hynix, it's looser on the Elpida. These are both 1250 megahertz straps. So like initially the Elpida, like, the first four timings, the Elpida is just looser. Then we get to RRD, which is the same for both. TRC is actually slightly worse on the Hynix, but I think like that's one tick. So I don't think that makes as much of a difference as what we had before that. Then read to write is 22 versus 23. So this is a turnaround timing. So for GDDR5, that actually might be quite significant. I think the ability to transition between read and write operations quickly. Then we have CCDL, which you can basically think of that as like read to read delay, and that's 2 for both, so that's the same. Then we have read to read. Man, why are memory controllers so weird? The thing is, like, getting GDDR documentation is way harder than DDR documentation, and I've also not read as much of it, so yeah, not done as much research. So I might be misunderstanding what TCCDL does for GDDR5, like for GDDR versus what it does for DDR. But like on DDR, a lot of the time that timing is actually just replaced with read to read, which we seemingly have both of them here. That doesn't necessarily mean they're both used, though. Always the fun thing with certain memory controller implementations is that, like, yeah, you have all of these timings, and then the memory controller just ignores some of them. But anyway, or doesn't use some of them. Anyway, so read to read, the same. And then we have write to read, which actually goes advantage to the Elpida memory. TCL is lower on the Hynix memory by 1, which I don't like. That's a wash as far as I'm concerned. Read to pre-charge write. Oh, I'm going to go with, that's TRP WA. That's going to be write pre-charge. Wait, RP. Yeah, that's going to be write pre-charge auto. So auto write pre-charge. That's 37 versus 45. So if there's like a lot of row hopping, the Hynix would have an advantage. Then we have read pre-charge, like auto read pre-charge at 30 versus 35. So again, the Hynix has the advantage, though. I will say the WRRD advantage, like that's substantial for the Elpida. That looks like a, yeah, so kind of a hard comparison to make. This might be why they all seem to perform basically like clock for clock. They seem really similar out of the box. Anyway, RP we have 14 versus 18, so yeah, the Elpida is just worse at pre-charge apparently. TRFC is 81 for Hynix, 62 for the Elpida, so apparently Hynix, like, this could be significant. I don't know what the refresh interval is for GDDR5, so if this is like a substantial percentage increase of the available like clock cycles, this could actually be quite substantial impact on the performance. It might also not do very much depending on how big the refresh interval is. Even though like at a glance that's like a 33% increase in refresh time. But we don't know what the refresh interval is, so that's annoying. Now, I think the refresh interval is standardized, but the issue is like if the refresh interval is say 800 cycles, then this is like 10% of your available clock cycles getting wasted versus like 6-ish percent. Yeah, something like that. So that would actually be pretty substantial. But if it's like there's like, I don't know, say 2,000 cycles in between refreshes, and then it's like, okay, that kind of doesn't matter as much. Anyway, TFAW at 8 for both of them, which is kind of weird to see because for DDR it's typically like minimum at like 16. CRC CRL, which I don't know what that is, 2 versus 3. So the Hynix is a bit tighter there than CRCWL. So that like the W is right, obviously, but that's 4 versus 3. So Hynix slightly looser than 32AW, 6 versus 6, so that's the same. And then act read. I'm very confused. Like, we have TRCD, which would normally be like activates, and then we have another activate timing. Oh, well. 18 versus 19, then 13 versus 14, so Elpida, like a lot of the basic timings seem to be like worse, but then you have like an advantage on write to, like a substantial advantage on write to read and potentially a substantial advantage on TRFC. Then we have, I don't even know what that is, 32 versus 32 and 37 versus 30 and 35 for those. Then RAS to RAS 81 versus 62. What I don't get about RAS to RAS is that, like, I'm pretty sure RRD is supposed to handle whatever the hell that is, but GDDR5 is weird. So, yeah, not sure what, like, don't actually know what that timing is supposed to control, but it is significantly lower on the Elpida. It's actually the same as the TRFC, which is really, right? Like, on both of them, it's the same as the TRFC, which is interesting. Like I want, like, in the sense that like I wonder if that like is a requirement, or well, I like this can actually generate custom timing straps, but I've not really messed with it because especially on 290Xs, flashing the BIOS takes a month. Those cards just have like a lot of bus traffic on them. So flashing the BIOS, at least in Windows, takes forever. I guess if you did it through DOS, it would hopefully be a bit faster. But yeah, these cards take like several minutes to flash the BIOS. It's super annoying. Whereas other AMD GPUs take a few seconds per BIOS flash. Yeah, these are like awful for that. So like if you're like, I would not recommend trying to tune memory timings like one at a time on a 290X because you'll be there all day. Actually, like all week probably. Anyway, RP2 at 31 versus 36, and WR plus RP we have 38, 46. So that's like more pre-charge stuff, and then we have T-bus turn, which I have no idea what that is. 19 versus 17. So, yeah, between the Hynix and the Elpida, I like they're like the Hynix has some things that are tighter. The Elpida has some things that are tighter. The Elpida might be faster just because of things like WRD being substantially lower, right? Because like RDWR for both of them is kind of the same thing, but WRD is significantly better on the Elpida compared to the Hynix, and then also the TRFC is significantly better than on the Hynix memory. So that might give it a very slight edge in performance per clock. But Not anything very noticeable because, yeah, I can't say I've noticed the, like, matrix. Like, yeah, it's not like I noticed the matrix being somehow, like, magically faster than I would expect an R9 290X to be. Um, so, yeah. Anyway, moving on, we have a Samsung strap. Now, the Samsung memory, uh, I mean, is a lot tighter on the, like, first two timings, which was kind of interesting to me that, like, there's so much variety. Because, like, with DDR, right? Like, say, DDR3 1600, that comes in, like, two flavors, basically 999 and 111111. Both of them kind of suck. And then with GDDR5, like, we have three different timings. Like, each of the vendors has, like, completely different, like, like, basic timings by the looks of things. Um, but anyway, so yeah, we have 12, 12, 17, 17 versus 10, 10, 17, 17. So the Samsung's quite a bit tighter on that. TRD is tighter than on the Hynix and the Elpida. Like, yeah, it's just completely different timings for every. Like, maybe there's a chance that MSI actually tuned them. I kind of doubt it, because I think AMD wouldn't really be on board with the GPU manufacturers just kind of messing with the memory timings. Um, I guess I could check if this strap from the Lightning is comparable to the strap from the, like, Tri-X card that yeah, the Tri-X card I have someday. Um, Anyway, TRC is slightly worse. TRDWR is way worse. So hopefully hopefully GPU memory operations don't require a lot of read to write transitions because that's not good on the Samsung. And then we have the same on TCCDL and RDRD. WRD is like a midway between, yeah, it's like a halfway between the Elpida and the Hynix memory, which is kind of fun. TCL is worse than both of them, I think. Yep, worse than both of them. Like, we really do just have completely, like, the timings are just completely different for every brand. Then write auto precharge 39. Read auto precharge we have what is it, 33 versus like 30. So is that like halfway between the? Oh yeah, that's like halfway between the Elpida and the Hynix on that. Um, then RP we have the same as the Hynix actually. And then TRFC, same as the Hynix. So I guess there might be like two standards for what the TRFC is supposed to be by spec. And then 6 versus 8, like, so tight, a slightly tighter T-fall. Um, then CRL the same, like CWL 7, which is looser than both the Hynix and the Elpida. Then 32 all, we have 5 instead of 6, which might be substantial. Because I'm going to assume that's like 32 activate window. So that should probably be similar. Like, I would assume it has like a similar performance impact to what you see with like DDR and the T-fall timing. At least in like DDR4 or something. Not DDR5 is somewhat less sensitive to that one. Or more like, I haven't really seen the auto timing for DDR5 be horrendous like it sometimes is on DDR4 and DDR3. Um, Then we have act to read 18, which is the same as the Hynix. Then act to write we have slightly lower. These are somewhat worse than both the Hynix and the Elpida for these two. And then RAS to RAS is the same as the Hynix. So yeah, really, like, interesting. How the, like, first of all, there's so much difference between the stock timing straps is like the first thing I find really interesting. Because if you take like JEDEC spec DDR4 memory sticks, they all default to basically the same timings. And you take JEDEC spec DDR3 memory sticks, they default to basically the same timings. And then you have GDDR5, and it's like these are these are basically completely different, which is really interesting to me. Um, and also it means that like clock for clock, there should be very slight performance differences between GPUs. Um, I'm not sure which of these would actually be faster. The Samsung seems to have like a mix of being generally slightly tighter, except for a few timings where it's like looser than both Elpida and Hynix. But otherwise, like, So I guess that might be why the Lightning comes with the Samsung, because I can't say that like the Samsung memory chips like consistently clock really high, because I have a Samsung card that clocks like garbage. Well, okay, it's not as bad as the worst Elpida I've ever had, but it's really not very good. Um, though that might just be down to the memory controller variance. But yeah, I'm not sure. Like the issue is that's really hard to test for with GPUs, right? Because like especially a 290X where the card comes with like 16 memory chips. Is it 16? Like it comes with a lot of memory chips. It is 16 memory chips. Yeah, it comes with 16 memory chips. So if like one of those memory chips is bad, the entire card, like all of like the whole thing will clock like garbage. Or and similarly, you have to consider that like technically the memory controller has all these like individual memory interfaces. So if like one part of the memory controller sucks, the entire card sucks, right? Um, so yeah, really hard to say if it's like, oh, this is bad memory. And the funny thing is, like, some memory chips actually have substantial differences in terms of like overclocking headroom for a given like spec. Like the most inconsistent memory chip, in my opinion, would be like Samsung DDR4 8 gigabit B die. Like that stuff is all over the place. The worst B die I've ever seen behaves a lot more like Samsung C die. The best B die is literally the best DDR4 memory chip ever made, right? So the room, like the variance on that memory chip is ridiculous between some of the worst memory you could ever get to literally the best memory you could ever get. And so it's really hard to say with a GPU where you don't really like you can't just swap the memory chips, or well you can, but eventually you're going to wear out the PCB if you keep doing that. And also just swapping out the memory chips is not just swapping out the memory chips, right? Like it's a pain to swap memory chips on GPUs. Um, and so because of that, it's really hard to say if a card is clocking badly because like the memory is bad or if the memory controller is bad. Um, so yeah, um, I'm not sure. Like so, like I don't know. It's like maybe the Samsung memory chips have a lot of variance, and then like MSI had to also bin them. But then maybe the cores just have like maybe the memory controller itself has a lot of variance, and then you have to bin the cores for the memory controller. Um, I guess if the light edition that I have, because the two lightnings I have a proper lightning and there's like a light edition, which is a binning reject. And I don't remember what the memory does on the binning reject, because with 290X's, the priority, as far as I'm concerned, is core clock. The cards, like, they do scale with memory performance, but they're not exactly memory bottlenecked with that 512-bit memory bus. Um, so usually the priority is like you want core clock. And that's also like if you have a card that doesn't go over 1150, which a lot of them won't in my experience, you're just kind of screwed if you're trying to beat a card that does 1200 core, even if that card has significantly worse memory, right? Because that like slight core clock gap is way more important than any kind of memory clock gap on 290Xs in my experience. So yeah, I don't remember what the light edition does because that wasn't really a priority. I checked how like basically when I tested the light edition card, it was like I checked the core sucked, and it's like okay, I don't really care if the memory is good at this point because like the core sucks, so the whole card sucks. But anyway, I might have to like check if like the memory controller also sucks. Um, because if it doesn't, then it might like well, it doesn't really tell me anything, but it would be interesting to know, I guess. Anyway, we have more memory timings because we actually have tuned timings by the Stilt for both Hynix AFR and Elpida BG, and I've just pulled them from overclock.net. So there's like a thread on OCN with these two straps, and decided to decode them to see like you know is Elpida like better than Hynix if you have like custom memory timings? And the answer is I'm not sure. Like again, we have TRCDW, TRCDWA. It's like wait, we have precharge auto with, and then you have auto precharge again. Interesting. And or at least I'm assuming this is auto precharge because at least for DDR that would have been auto precharge. I'm not sure if it's the same for GDDR. Yeah, so the first four timings are again tighter for the Hynix memory. RRD is at 4. I'm gonna actually guess that that might actually be the like limit of the GDDR memory. Like you might be able to set a lower value. Yeah, you would be able to set a lower value on the memory controller. Like if I set 0, actually copy stock 0 mod. Yeah, so it would actually just fill that register with like 0. Well, it's register. I don't know what it would turn into zeros. Um, oh, I don't have a clear button. That's so annoying. Oh boy. I should have considered. Anyway, but anyway, so TRRD is the same on both of them. Let me just clear this out. Oh, no windows. Anyway, TRC is the same. TRDWR is slightly better on Hynix again. TCCDL, the same. Read to read, the same. I really wonder, like, does 4 not work? Because that should be, like, a substantial speed up. Because that would, like, read to read is, like, from a peak bandwidth perspective, that timing should have the biggest impact on peak bandwidth. I guess I could go through the, like, lower memory speed straps and see if there's any strap where this gets set to 4. Because if there's any strap where that gets set to 4, it might actually work at 4 even at higher speeds, and that might be worth testing. Anyway, WRD is lower. Wait, so now we just have... Wait, what? Isn't that worse than the... It is worse. Why? I guess there are like a couple timings on DDR, like both DDR and I guess GDDR as well, that you can like trade one of them for another one. But I don't think we have a CAS write latency, do we? Because we have CAS latency right here, TCL. Wait, is TCL like way lower? No, it isn't. It's only like one tick lower. Why is this at 15? Is this not decode? No, I didn't change anything. Like this. That is so weird. Why is that at 15? Anyway, so that's worse now. TCL on Hynix is like very, very low. In fact, I think it might be better than the Samsung memory at this point. Yeah, actually, oh wait, the Samsung has like awful TCL. So the Hynix tuned up timing seems to just be better than everything. So all the more reason for like, why does ASUS ship the matrices almost exclusively with Elpida? At least I haven't seen one that doesn't have Elpida. Anyway, going further, we have RPWA at 36 versus 35. So that's basically the same thing. RPA, this is Hynix. Oh, that is very interesting because like on the stock timings, the Hynix actually has an advantage on those. Whereas, yeah, whereas on the stilt timings, it has a disadvantage. Very, very interesting. I'm still very confused about why this is 15 now. But anyway, yeah, so the Elpida actually now has an advantage on these, which is a thing. RP is still better on Hynix, which makes me more confused because these should be like just like these should be like conditional pre-charge. Wait, yeah, these should be like conditional pre-charge timings. So they shouldn't like they should be kind of like they should have a relationship with the RP timing itself. So it's kind of weird that like these get closer to the RP timing, whereas like the Hynix ones actually get further apart compared to stock. Yeah, they do get like further apart compared to stock. Actually, RPA is just worse than the stock Hynix timings. That is so very interesting. Anyway, RP at 10 versus 14. Then we have TRFC is still worse on the Hynix than it is on the Elpida. T-fault, the same. CRL, yep, that's the same. Then 32AW is also the same. Act read is worse. Act write is better. Then, oh, wait, why is it looser again? That is very, like, is that, it might be optimization to get the memory to clock higher on this strap. That is a possibility. Though, like if you just use the 1250 strap from the the stock 1250 strap, you might top out at a lower memory clock than with the stilt strap. Um, that would explain why some of these timings are set the way they are. Though Elpida memory, in my experience, clocks so bad, even on the default strap, which is really, really loose, like the 1500 megahertz strap, right? Or something. Well, I mean, I haven't pulled up a 1500 megahertz strap. I guess we can do that. It's not like I can just keep opening instances. We could pull up a 1500 megahertz strap for the Elpida memory to see if does this get significantly worse or not. Because in my experience, Elpida cards they clock like garbage. Okay, if a good one maxes out at 1600 and you're happy about it, and then because at 1600 you're losing all the benchmarks, you start modifying the timing strap, and the memory overclocking headroom actually gets worse. So yeah, interesting. Anyway, I will pull up a strap once we just finish looking at these. So and then RAS to RAS. Oh, so it doesn't have to be the same as TRFC because it isn't the same as TRFC for these. Interestingly, here it actually got tighter, whereas here it's the same as the original strap. This is better. Whatever that does. WR plus RP, worse on Hynix than on the Elpida, and then bus turn is better on the Elpida than it is on the Hynix. So, yeah, very ultimately, I still can't really say is Elpida actually better than Hynix, because it's not like with DDR4 where it's well, the thing is the Hynix in my experience generally clocks significantly higher. You can do 1750 on Hynix a lot of the time, and over 1600 even with a strap mod of some kind is really not that much of a challenge in my experience. Here's one of my VaporX 290Xs, right? And I'm running it at 1685 on, I'm assuming the 1250 strap, maybe the 1375 strap. Not full custom timings, because it's not even the stilt strap. That's just the stock AMD strap for probably 1375 is my guess. Right? And on an Elpida card on without any mods, you'd be struggling to hit 1685 at all. So yeah. Anyway, so we've gone through all of those. And now what I want to take a look at is I do want to take a look at a really high speed Elpida strap. So we're just going to put that in here. We're going to take a look at the 1500 megahertz strap, and that's going to be strap 02. Just so that I don't get confused. That's the whole reason I added the free text box, is just so that I have a way of keeping track of when I have multiple instances of it open like this, I have a way of keeping track of what's what. So we're just going to delete that. I'm just going to pull this. Add some convenience stuff. Yeah, this way I don't have to remember the where's the search function? Oh, here's the I just use HXD for opening up BIOSes, and now we're gonna do a search. Find oh yeah, you can search, you can find what memory chips a BIOS supports by just searching for the version string of the memory chips. So here you can see this BIOS supports AFR and BBBG. Also, because the BBBG is after the AFR, it's the second strap, and there's no other memory chip supported on this BIOS. This is the Matrix BIOS from Tech Power Up. Anyway, let's just punch in that, hex values, bam, and we have 0. So the 0, 1 here, this is the first strap, so that's the Hynix strap, so we don't want that. 3, 0, 2, this is the Elpida strap, and it goes until... We can see the beginning of the next strap over here, right? 0, 2, 77, 71, so that's the next strap. So before that, we have the frequency, and this is our 1500 strap. And then after that, we have the 1625 strap, I think. Anyway, we're gonna decode that, and it just gets way looser. Yes, it does. It just gets worse. Why am I not? I mean, obviously, like, it's the stock timing strap. Why wouldn't it get worse? Anyway, so yeah, the thing I was wondering about, like, why is... But LP, I guess this might clock better than the 1250 strap. Yeah, so it does. It does. So I guess this might be to like maintain overclocking headroom. Though honestly, I feel like on the Elpida, like at least the Matrix I have, like I think on the stock straps it maxed out at like 1600, and then when I think I was running even like the 1125 strap, and it was still doing like 1550, which was like it still clocked like garbage. Just the timings were way tighter. I don't think that the 11. I think the 1125 strap. I don't think is as tight as this. Actually, that might have topped out at like 1450 or 1500. But yeah, so unfortunately, this video is in a way inconclusive about whether or not, like, if you're buying an R9 290X, do you want Elpida memory or not? I'd still probably lean towards no. Yeah, personally, I'm still leaning towards, like, if I get an R9 290 or 290X with Elpida, I am disappointed. I'm not, like, that is not a thing to be, like, happy about. I guess it might not be as bad as I thought it was, because it does have some timings that are slightly better than Hynix. So even if it, like, clocks significantly worse, it's not, you know, the end of the world. But I do wonder, like, now that I have this, like, decoder, and encoder. That's actually the more useful part of this, in my opinion, because the thing is, there's actually been like a command line based decoder available for like ages, but then it's like, okay, so you can take the strap apart, but then how do you put the strap back together again? Well, this can put the strap back together, right? Because we can just do that, and then I can change the timings, and then you press the mod button, and it generates a new strap. Well, it like translates the human legible values to GPU legible values. Yeah, so ultimately, I still don't like Elpida memory. Unfortunately, you don't really want to be manually tuning timings on a 290X because the BIOS flashing is such a pain on those cards. But I think you can get 7970s with AFR. So you could probably figure out what timings work on like a 7970 and then like save yourself some effort because there might be memory controller differences in terms of like there are certain timings that can be dependent on the memory controller itself. Like with DDR, TRCD can actually be quite dependent on the memory controller, interestingly enough. With GPUs, I don't know. I've not tried, you know, like I've not really used this very much. Well, I briefly used it on a 7970, but didn't get very far with it. Can't remember why. But anyway, yeah, so you, like, I think ideally, or you could actually use like an R9 280X. Yeah, because that's at least produced in the same time, like that's produced at the same time as the Hawaii card, so you're more likely to find cards with the same memory chips. Though I don't think the 290X really used significantly different memory chips from a 7970. But anyway, That's it for this video. And whoa, this was way longer than I thought it would be, but uh, yeah. Um, I'm still gonna be an I think after this I'm still not a fan of Elpida GDDR5. Um, Obviously it also would be worth like doing actual like benchmarks of the Elpida card versus the Hynix card, but like just looking at the timings at a glance, I'm not seeing anything where it's like, oh, this is why the Matrix cards always came with Elpida. Um, because like the only really big advantage I'm seeing is like, oh, the TRFC's better. Does that matter that much? I don't know. Everything else, like, okay, not everything else, but a lot of the other timings are worse. Also, I'm very confused about why the stilt timing strap for Elpida um, has such a loose right to read. Is it even loose? It's even loose compared to the 1500 strap. So like, why? Um, but anyway, that'll be it for this video. If you're wondering where you can get the timing editor that I've made, um, I'll try figure out a download link for it. It does require some version of the you need Java for it, right? Because it's in Java. But um, yeah, they didn't really consider the distribution of this software very much. So that's kind of that. But anyway, hopefully you found this interesting, if not particularly useful. Yeah, thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, leave any comments, questions, suggestions down in the comment section below. If you'd like to support what I do here with actually hardcore overclocking, I have a Patreon. There's a link to that down in the description below. There's also the HOC Teespring store where you can pick up shirts, hoodies, posters, the usual YouTuber merch. And I've also got a Bandcamp. There's a link to that down in the description below as well. And yeah, that's it for the video. So thank you for watching and goodbye.